Tell on your sides, Kid Talk. Think about issues. Talk it out. Learn from others. Share your thoughts. Express your feelings. It's about what's on your mind. Tell on your sides, Kid Talk.
Hello and welcome to Kid Talk. I'm Katie Collette. Bullying is a hot topic in schools these days. So the question is, how can you prepare your kids for an unexpected encounter with a bully? Find out what they can do and more with these students who are joining us from Denby High School in Newport News, and our guest expert Katrina Hines, student support specialist from Denby High School. Thanks to everyone for joining us. So let's get started. We know bullying is certainly a topic we hear a lot about these days. Don't you hear a lot about bullying these days? So much so that Denby High School has an entire group of students dedicated to that topic. What a great idea. So the first question I have for all of you, how as students do you stand up to bullying? You can raise your hand if you have that answer. How do you as students at your school stand up to bullying? Over here.
Yeah.
All right, Gabrielle, how do you stand up?
Well, at Denby High School, we have Teens Against Violence, and I believe last year we had Blackout Bullying Monday, so that's how we stand up for bullying.
Now, Blackout Bullying Monday, what did you do?
We all wore black to blackout bullying, so.
Okay, that's a great idea. How else do you try to combat bullying every day? What are some things that you try to do? I'll come over here to you, Kwame.
We have a bully hotline, and when anybody's in trouble, they can just call that. And we also have teachers and administration that we can come to whenever we need them, and they can help us try to resolve the problems that we're having with someone else.
Why do you think having that bully hotline is so important?
Because sometimes people who are being bullied don't have somebody to talk to, and they're just confused. They don't have a way to settle their issues.
Mm-hmm. And you think it's good for them to be able to almost talk anonymously sometimes and let folks know what's happening?
Of course.
All right. Very good. And did you have another answer down there about, was that the same thing with that hotline? That's pretty impressive there. So what sparked the interest for a need to have a group like that, to have a group from Denby High School to help with bullying? Tia, do you have an answer? How did kids get involved?
Well, it's similar. Well, I got involved because I believed that bullying was extremely and morally wrong. So I decided, well, why not just join it and see if it'll help at all, and it does help. Mm-hmm. It does help other kids realize that bullying is wrong and that you shouldn't do it because you're going to end up like lowering their self-esteem, mm-hmm. and that's bad because that can cause emotional problems and in some cases mental problems.
Good point. There's a lot of damage that bullying can do. So why did you decide to get involved, Tim?
Well, I decided to get involved because through past experience, I've bullied before, honestly, mm-hmm. but thinking like karma, that's the main reason, because karma always gonna come back. When you bully somebody, you're gonna get bullied back, and that's the reason why I want to put a stop to bullying, especially at Denby High School.
I think it's really impressive and brave of you to admit that at times you have bullied. And coming from someone who has maybe done that once or twice before, why did you decide to do it at that time? What was it that made you decide to do it?
Decide
to possibly bully somebody?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't as mature, mm-hmm. as I've grown to be now. That's pretty much it.
That's a good answer. I think maturity really plays a lot in stopping being a bully. So how about anybody else? Why does anyone else decide to get involved to try and stop bullying? Ryan?
Well, I've been getting bullied ever since like 3rd grade, so I really just don't like it at all. So mm-hmm. that's why I wanted to get involved and help stop bullying.
When you get bullied, how do you feel? What does that do to you when you get bullied?
A lot of the times, even in most recent time, when I was getting bullied for being Jewish, I got really angry. Mm-hmm. And it almost made me want to punch the person, but luckily I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to almost try to practice just being calm and, you know, being able to just handle it, deal with it, and try not to get so upset about it?
Yeah, that, and actually the administrators helped, because the first time I went to them, they said if I ever get angry, that I can always just go to their office, ask my teacher, and go to their office just to cool down. Mm-hmm. And that really helped.
Yeah, that's good to have someone there. Talk to me about what you're hearing from the students right now. What responses do you like here that you
that
can
I'm
point
hearing
out?
from the group here? Well, I'm really impressed with all the answers, and I think that they're telling the truth, that we do work very hard at Denby High School to make sure that our students know that there's someone there for them to talk with. We have our hotline. Like they've mentioned earlier, they also can go to the administrators. The teachers are aware of the different signs and symptoms and how to be able to recognize if a student is being victimized. And also, I think I heard someone mention, as well as this self-esteem, we work really hard on building our students up and letting them know that they should not let anyone cause them to feel as though they're not worthy.
Katrina, why did Denby High School decide to pay such close attention to this problem and zero in on the fact that it's such an important issue?
Well, actually, Denby High School has been focusing on bullying for several years. I think bullying has always been an issue in society, but I would say the last 7 years we decided to educate our freshmen once they entered the school to know that Denby High School is a bully-free zone. And we make an effort to make sure that everyone is aware, and when they come into the district, as far as Denby High School, automatically they'll get information telling them about the signs to recognize if someone's being bullied, or how to be a bystander that steps in and provides support. So we've been doing it for several years, and then we found that it's become a national topic within the last 4 to 5 years. So we've tried to stay on the cutting edge of what's going on at Denby and to try to diffuse violence in any form.
Now, how many of you, I know that Ryan here shared with us that he has been bullied. How many of you have been bullied at any point in your life, from elementary school to now? I'm going to raise my hand in that too. So literally every single person sitting here and standing here today has been bullied. Are any of you willing to share your experience why someone had picked on you? Here, we'll go here to Marcus.
I mean, of course, I'm a big dude, so I mean, that was always the first thing people came at. But you know, eventually I learned to shrug it off and laugh it off and move on. And so now, whenever I see somebody else being bullied, I just try to step in, because it's hurtful to hear those things and see those things being done to somebody else. So that's why I try to stop it.
That's a good answer, Marcus. Thank you. And I saw you with your hand raised back here again. Mama, how were you bullied?
Usually in middle school, people used to pick on me because I used to get good grades, and I usually wouldn't succumb to cheating and stuff like that. And when I didn't let people copy off my work or something like that, they would pick on me every day, and it was hurtful. I didn't like it.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes you find almost when you're successful, you're good at something, you're a top athlete, you're smart, that almost seems to be when you're getting picked on. Have you noticed that? That it's like if you're doing really well, do you think maybe sometimes bullying is a part of jealousy in some way? I see you raising your hand down here.
I just wanted to add on to that. I think bullying has a lot to do with hatred, maybe jealousy as well, because when you bully someone, it's repetitive. So I mean, if you keep doing it, you obviously have some, dislike that you dislike about the other person or the situation, something like that.
Okay, thank you so much. We have so much more that we need to talk about, but it is time for a quick break. We'll continue this very important discussion about bullying when we come back. Welcome back to Kid Talk. Today we're talking about bullying with these students who are joining us from Denby High School in Newport News, and our guest expert, Katrina Hines, student support specialist from Denby High School. So let's get right back into this. We're talking about bullying and how Denby High School has an entire group of students devoted to anti-violence and bullying. Let's kick off this next segment with giving us an idea of what types of advice you can offer to students who are bullied. As students, what tips can you give others to try and avoid being bullied? Sydney?
Just tell an administrator, an adult, somebody who you might look up to. Like we have a program now for our freshmen that juniors and seniors would mentor them. Maybe tell them, or tell Ms. Hines or somebody in the guidance office, and try not to let it get you down.
Why do you have juniors and seniors mentoring freshmen who are just coming in? Why is that important?
To help them transfer into the high school environment, because I know when I was a freshman I could have used it, and the juniors and the sophomores are still trying to get into it.
Right.
So juniors and seniors have been there for a long time. So
Very good, Sydney. Thank you so much. And I saw a hand raised over here as well. Go ahead. What advice do you have?
Just try to ignore it because, you know, I mean, people in high school that bully you, they're only going to be around you for the next, 3 years of your lives, and you have 80 more years to live. So, I mean, just one person you only spend a few years with, you shouldn't let that affect the rest of your life.
What a great answer. Just try and focus down the road and know that life gets better. Very good. And I saw you back here. Let me come this way to you. There's
Sean.
Sean. We're missing a letter.
No, you're not. It is important to not be quiet about it because it is an actual issue, and no issue is going to be fixed unless you do something about it. And at this stage, people who are picking on you, obviously, they're not going to have much respect for you. So even if you ask them to stop, they're probably not going to. So you have to go turn to someone and ask them for help as well. I mean, don't be afraid to do it. Everybody needs help sometimes.
And advice coming from an adult. Would you like to add to that what students can do?
I agree. I think that it's important to know that there's always someone there to help you. We find that those students who are more passive and not as confident, they usually keep it to themselves. But we really advocate at Denby High School, and we talk about being a safe, smart, responsible, and respectful student, and taking responsibility for their peers and helping them to seek the support of an adult. Because if you don't get the help from someone, you'll never address the issue. You'll continue to carry that with you. So we really want them to talk with someone about it.
At what point do you think a student should ask for help? At what point should one of your friends who is being bullied ask for help from a friend or an adult?
I feel they should do it immediately when they feel uncomfortable. Because if you let it go to a certain point, a person will just break. So I'd rather them not wait so long and hold that energy or that anger in for so long that they'll just pop. So immediately.
Good response. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Come over here.
Well, what was the question again?
It's at what point should someone who's being bullied ask for help?
Well, if the bully starts picking on you ASAP, I mean, like right there and then, you should actually get help before it goes out of hand. Because personally, I know some of my good friends that died from bullying, and I tried to help them, but they didn't listen.
So maybe get some help from an adult if you can, and try to give them advice immediately. Do you feel like your friends maybe waited a little while longer than what you would have wanted them to try to get help?
Some of them tried to get help. I tried to help them. I told them to go to a guidance counselor, go to an adult, seek some type of self-esteem, but some of them didn't.
It's very important to fully understand what Christian is saying, and you know, it's a difficult subject to talk about, but just how serious bullying can be and how far it can really go for some students. Tia, did you have a response to when folks should get help?
Yeah, I think they should get help before they say, like most of the time when I have friends who are being bullied, they tend to say, I can't do this anymore. And they get really depressed, and I can't stand seeing that. And I try to help them, and I think they should do it before everything gets out of hand.
Good answer. Katrina, what do you think about that?
I think that it's a great idea to do it beforehand. I think a student should seek support when they're having those uncomfortable feelings. When they feel as though someone is causing them to feel worthless, immediately talk with someone. First line of defense, I would say, would be your parents. Go to your parents because they understand you best, and they'll be able to help you work through those issues at home. But we're also available in the school setting to make sure that students know that they can call the anonymous hotline. Those calls are answered every day. They have the administrators and their teachers. And most importantly, if you have a relationship with your peers and you know that it's a best friend that you can confide in, please tell them. Because if you're not comfortable with telling someone you're being bullied, then they would be there to support you to do so.
What are some things that bullies may say or do? If someone's saying, you know, I'm not sure if I'm being bullied. I do feel a little uncomfortable, but I'm not sure if maybe I'm imagining it. You know, sometimes people want to say, oh, I don't think that's the case. What can you say to them? How can they know that they're being bullied? Or is it just a feeling you have and you just know? I'm going to come right back here. Okay, Douglas, what should they realize?
Well, I mean, you should know that you're being bullied off the fact that it makes you feel uncomfortable. Anytime somebody's trying to tell you that they're trying to put you down for being yourself, you're being bullied, and you need to take action at that point.
I think what you said is something that's really important. Someone's trying to pick on you for being yourself. And what you're going to find as you grow and when you graduate, being yourself is what's going to help you get ahead of the game and get that job and beat someone out for a job. So always continue to be yourself. Did anyone have anything to add to that? We haven't heard from you yet here, Trey.
When you know you're being bullied, it's almost basically an everyday thing, especially when they notice that you are uncomfortable with what they're saying, but they keep doing it even when you ask them to stop, because they just want to get that rise out of you to make you feel uncomfortable, to put you down. So you know you're being bullied when it's repetitive and it's basically the same thing being said over and over again just to make you feel bad about yourself.
So it's almost like the moment you start to feel uncomfortable is when you should recognize that you're being bullied. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's time for another break. But first, remember, you can catch Kid Talk online anytime. Just log on to wavy.com and click the on-air tab to find us. You can watch full episodes, including this one right here. Check it out, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Kid Talk. We're talking about bullying and violence in schools today, and it has really been a really good discussion so far. These students are joining us from Denby High School in Newport News, and our guest expert, Katrina Hines, Student Support Specialist from Denby High School. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. So far, we have discussed how students can act against bullying and violence in school. So, first of all, in this next segment here, what advice can you give to students who want to get involved in the group? We'll start with you.
Well, first, if there are programs in your school and you don't know that there is, you should definitely get involved that way. There's different clubs in your schools that maybe you don't even know about. So definitely look into your school and see what they've got going on in their school. See if there's any bully prevention club going on, and definitely get involved that way.
Good answer. Anybody else here? How can you get involved in a group in your school? Let's go around and get Sean here.
Said it right this time.
I did say it right this time. I'm pretty proud of myself.
I know at Denby there are a lot of groups that we can do. There's Teens Against Violence. There's there was one about date violence. I think that's part of Teens Against Violence as well. But we have separate weeks set aside through our different groups we have, where you can get involved, where you can do certain things. You can sign a pledge to maybe not bully. You can do a Blackout Monday where we wore black. And I'm sure that if there aren't groups at your school, then you can always make one. It's not that hard to get a bunch of people who are against bullying.
Right, exactly. That's a very good point. Quam, did you have
I was going to say the same thing.
Pretty much the same thing? Possibly starting one?
Yeah, and if not at your school, then definitely in your community outside.
That's a really great idea, too. Katrina, don't you think not just school, but folks can get bullied outside of school?
Outside of the school setting. Actually, a lot of the bullying takes place outside of school. The students are involved, particularly Denby. Denby is a school that's a community-based school where most of the students, if they're not involved in our magnet program, they live within the community. They're right next to the school. So a lot of the issues that take place outside during maybe a basketball game or some type of event, they tend to bring it into the school setting. And it goes on and on. So we encourage the students, for example, our Teens Against Violence program is an open group. Any student can get involved in that group. We meet several times a month. We also try to collaborate with the other clubs so that all of the events that we try to implement at Denby, that the entire student body is involved in the program. So they can start one at their school. They can also start one within their communities, as far as a community center or within a church group or any type of event that will allow them to address the violence issue.
Right, and something I want to touch on that Sean mentioned here was he had said bullying and violence. There are things out there other than bullying. What types of violence are out there other than bullying that students may face in school? I saw your hand up first back here. Go ahead, Sydney.
Dating violence. And at home, maybe you're getting abused by your parents or brother, sister, something.
Good answer. And what other types of violence do you know?
Oh, well, I was going to say violence kind of like relates to bullying through the verbal, physical, emotional, maybe through like sexual. I mean, we're all mature here, so it shouldn't be a problem.
That's right. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, maybe if someone is feeling broken down from home and then they come to school and someone picks on them there, it could possibly be even worse. Carlos, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to like being bullied and stuff, I say violence and stuff like gang violence and things like I know personally one time I got jumped when I got off the bus for no reason, and it was just some people who wanted to pick on me, and you know, just mainly like violence. It's just, I would say like physical is probably the biggest thing for me that I've had to deal with.
Yeah, and it does seem almost like violence and bullying go hand in hand depending on how serious the bullying is. I saw another hand up over here.
I think gang violence also contributes to the violence in the neighborhood and can cross over to bullying. Because if you watch that neighborhood all the time, you see the people and you turn to go to them a lot to bully them or extort them for money. And race, and also that was, I mean, if a kid walks up to you and calls you the N-word, the excuse can't be because I have another black friend. It still hurts.
Right. It's still a horrible word to use. Do you feel like gang violence, I know we've been touching on that a bit, and neighborhoods in a lot of the cities in Hampton Roads, there is gang violence. Is that in a way any scarier than, and I never want to say typical bullying because there is not typical bullying. Bullying is just bullying, period. But when you're dealing with a gang, Katrina, maybe I can talk to you about this. Is that almost a different beast entirely?
Well, it is a different beast. Usually, I mean, granted, bullying does take place within gangs.
Absolutely.
I think within a gang, that individual is feeling more intimidated by the gang because there's a need to belong. But in terms of the two, they're pretty much, I would say, on the same level because gangs, their role basically is to empower or take control of an individual or a group. And as far as a bully, that is pretty much the same concept. They're trying to dominate, take control of an individual. So they're pretty much on the same level as far as the impact that it may have on a person, whether it's within a school setting or within the community.
Okay, and Tim, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I feel that gangs are for weak people because you have to rely on other people to survive. And by like gangs, with gangs, it's like a higher level of bullying, as I would say. Just because you got a whole bunch of people versus just one.
That's a good point. You know, you think of gangs, and a lot of folks try to think of gangs as strong, but you really broke it down well when you say they're weak because they're depending on other people to try and bring them up or to make them feel a part of something.
Well, to piggyback on what Tim said, the thing is, bullies are just there to make themselves feel good sometimes. I mean, why would you want to pick on someone that's weak? It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you have like 5 against 1, it doesn't even look right because that person can't even defend themselves against such numbers.
So, yeah, it would almost seem like it's exhausting to wake up with that much hatred. Last answer for this?
Honestly, I believe that bullies, they're just insecure. I mean, they're insecure about themselves. They're tired of their lives. They're boring. They're, like, honestly, if you have to pick on somebody else to make yourself feel better about yourself and impress your friends, you're weak. You're a weakling. You know?
That's right. And you know what, bullies? We are not impressed. So, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment. Time for a quick break, and we will be right back. We're coming to the end of another Kid Talk, and we want to thank these students from Denby High School and our guest expert, Katrina Hines. We have had a really great discussion today on what has certainly become a hot topic, bullying. So as we wrap things up, let's go over some final thoughts. I do want to ask, why is it so important for someone who's being bullied to talk to an adult or at the very least a friend about what's happening to them? Laura, what do you think?
It's very important because if you keep it in, it'll just build up and then like you'll not know what to do and just lose it one day.
Right, and it could cause possibly some more problems in the long run. Aaron, what do you think?
If you don't get help, it could easily escalate, and before you know it, you could feel like, you know, you're not worth anything, and it could make you turn to suicide.
Right.
You just have to have good self-esteem in the first place, but you need help.
That's right. Don't ever let the bully think that they won, because you are better than that. I think that's all we have time for today. We could go for hours and hours on this subject, but we want you to remember, never let a bully forget how special you are. So thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll see you next time for another Kid Talk episode.